But the choir would really like to have more information. So, yeah.
All right, thanks everyone for joining. As you can see, we're keep dwindling down. So I know a couple of our brothers and sisters left without saying goodbye. So make sure to reach out through email, phone, telegram, however you've gotten in contact with them, and make sure that we, tell them we love them. And thanks for coming, and we hope to see you at the next.
Not in a bad way. They didn't leave it a bad way.
No. Just everyone's got their own schedules, right? No, of course not. No, but Steve was saying he left at like 4 a.m. Stuff like that.
Right.
So you might have missed some people, is all I'm saying. If you just saying goodbye to somebody.
And thank goodness they didn't wake us all up. So
So just if you missed saying goodbye to somebody, reach out, email, telegram, however you contact them, let them know that it was a pleasure to be with them. And this has been.
Because our first thought was you wanted us to go hunt them down.
Yeah, pull them off the plane, bring them back here.
You're
not the hug, everybody.
Let me hug your neck.
Yeah. No, so it's just been a real blessing, and as it's gotten quieter, it's also been time to get more intimate and have some conversations with people. So it's good when there's a lot of people, and it's still good when there's a few of us. So and like I mentioned, Dr. P and Jessica are just taking a rest today. If you need them, feel free to reach out. But I think they came home last night a bit late. They should be home again tonight, and then they'll be with us all tomorrow. Tomorrow is the high day. I'm actually not positive what we have planned tomorrow. I'm not sure either. So we're a little by the seat of our pants on tomorrow, but I think there's a good schedule. I'll just have to confer with the elders about what that might be. But tomorrow's a high day. And so we'll be, celebrating and doing some Shabbat stuff. And then, it's been a great 7 days. It has gone by fast. I don't know about for everyone else, but I woke up today on Wednesday and I was like, holy moly. It is already Wednesday. So it's been a real blessing. I know, it's crazy. It's been just a blessing. So light. I mentioned a couple of times, it just feels so light and easy. And there's been no strife and none of that stuff, which it really has, because there's some, we all have our own differences. We have a lot of similarities, and sometimes you kind of, see it tear apart communities more than it has ours. So it's just a testament to Jessica and Dr. Pigeon and their own work and their own hearts. I think, as kind of leaders and others, the example they set for us is something that we kind of naturally start to follow. So it's a real testament to them and the community they've built. So it's been a real pleasure. And then, without further ado, I know a number of you have already stated you're excited for this. And I've been talking with Amanda, and she definitely knows her stuff. It was funny. I was saying something. I kind of see her eyeing me, and then when I finished, she was like, "Okay, that's right." Obviously, all in love, but she's obviously very studied and very well versed in the subject she's going to be talking to us about. And so I'm excited. I know a number of you are excited. So without further ado, here's Amanda Grace talking to us about health and wellness.
Thank you very much, Drew. As I said earlier, I think I'm a little bit preaching to the choir. I've heard all the little discussions. You all are very knowledgeable about natural health. So hopefully I'm not going to bore you today. Hopefully there'll be something, a little tidbit here or there that you haven't heard before, or that will spark your interest to do more research or more study. But we'll save the questionable topics to the end, and we're going to take a little break so that we're not taken off.
Oh yeah, I'll just make that announcement real quick for anyone watching on the stream. Yeah, so as Amanda just mentioned, we might get into things that YouTube and Facebook aren't going to like. So she'll do the bulk of her presentation, and then online, if you're watching, we'll take a quick 3-minute break or so while I spin up a new stream that will not be on Facebook or YouTube. So if you're watching and you want to watch sort of the spicier stuff, Rumble or the Eating Wild Honey and Locust website will both have the stream. So you can still tune in, but if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, that latter part won't be there. So if you have any issues with that online, let me know or something. We'd love for you to still watch us, but those platforms are obviously a little bit hostile. So we'll just be on the website and Rumble.
Don't exactly embrace the truth.
No.
Okay, I just want to give a little bit of background. Naturopathy is my third career. I started out as a performer in opera, musical theater, and we traveled the world with the Navy. And then when I had triplets, I decided we needed to kind of settle down. And so I did sheep farming and fiber arts business. And then as the kids were leaving high school, finishing up, we homeschooled them through high school. And then I was kind of looking into other things and looking at essential oils, and people started asking me for advice. So I said, well, I better go back to school. And that's what I did. I went to Trinity School of Natural Health. And then one thing led to another. I decided to get my naturopathic doctorate, and that is, and board certification as well. So I have enjoyed this process. I grew up with a little bit of natural health. My mom was like, oh, you gotta eat organic, and we had a farm. But I really saw the advantages of incorporating natural methods in with, regular standard allopathic medicine when we were trying to get pregnant. So 10 years of infertility was our process. And then we did in vitro and still didn't get pregnant. This was wasn't on the path that I am now, but when I was performing, I was doing theater, someone said, oh, go see this Chinese doctor. And so she checked my pulses, checked for weaknesses in my body that way. And she told me my adrenals were shot, basically. She said, I'll give you herbs and you'll get pregnant. So I took the herbs. It was licorice and some other things that I really disliked the taste of. Very interesting the way that works out. And we did in vitro again and then got pregnant with triplets. So, praise y'all. That was a path for us and felt very, very blessed. People said, wow, you get it all done at once. I said, yeah, we kind of felt like we hit the jackpot, All right, so I'm going to start with just some basics. I'm sure you all have some herbal knowledge and you all have your favorite plants. I didn't want this to be a 3-hour production, so I had to narrow it down. I picked 9 plants that I wanted to go over, just really generally. Turmeric, and this is a root. It's in the ginger family. Most of you are probably familiar with it. You can get it in capsules and powder. It's used in flavoring a lot of Indian food. And so it's an anti-inflammatory root. It's good for pain relief. It's also an antioxidant. So it's a real good basic general one. I grow it here. You can actually grow it in pots in your house if you live in a colder climate. Ginger also, it is anti-inflammatory. It's really good for nausea, autoimmune, blood sugar regulation, and PMS. Pain particularly related to PMS. One of my favorites is the moringa. Now, I bought a little bag of moringa seeds because I grow the trees here in Florida. And if you get a mild winter, you can actually get the tree to bloom and get seeds. So I brought some. Some people grow these in pots in their houses if you're not in a tropical or warmer climate. But it is a real superfood. You can strip the leaves off the tree, off the branch, and just put it in a salad. You can eat it. It's a little spicy when you eat it fresh. What I like to do is right before the freeze is take all the branches, I dry the leaves and then powder them. You can add it to smoothies, sprinkle it on your salads, whatever. It's a really good superfood. It does alkalinize your body, which is really important for good health because we tend to eat things that make us too acidic, and then other things make us acidic as well. I'll get into that later. It also can help with diabetes, blood pressure. It is an antioxidant. It is a metal chelator, and we're exposed to a lot of heavy metals in our environment today, so it helps to detoxify that. So it's something that's easy to incorporate into your diet on a daily basis to help rid of that. Can also help with metabolic syndrome, increased breast milk production. It is anti-cancer, and it's radioprotective. So we're also being exposed to a lot of different types of radiation. Even if you're just going and getting an X-ray, it's cumulative in the body. So my next favorite is comfrey. This grows up north. I know I grew it really well in Pennsylvania, and I have trouble growing it in Florida. It prefers some more of the shady areas and a little cooler weather. But you can you can use it as a dried leaf. You can do a cold water infusion to have a tea, and you can use it as a Band-Aid, if you will, for cuts. It helps with healing of ulcerations, bruises, broken bones, sprains, strains. It's not for deep puncture wounds. And the reason is because it will heal the top level before the inside, and you don't want to close off a wound like that. So you can use it with Epsom salt to draw out some of the deeper wounds. So these are some things that are good just for daily use, like the turmeric and the moringa, but also when you think of medicine to have on hand in case of emergencies, or if you don't have access to other things. The nettles, the comfrey's a really good one that way. You can also use chamomile and calendula with it to soak for wounds and to pull out from injuries, damage from injuries. Another one that I like that grows crazy wild here, and probably most of the country, is nettles. And if you, I remember the first time I encountered stinging nettles, I think it was in Austria, and I was like, those plants burn, and they really will leave little welts on your skin, and it could sting for a few hours. But if you let the plant dry, I cut it and put it in a paper bag, and once it's dry, it doesn't sting anymore. So using the dried plants, you can make tinctures. Anybody here ever made tinctures? Okay, a couple of you. There's a lot of details on making tinctures, but it can be really simple too. You can take the fresh plant or the dried plant, put it in a jar, cover it with vodka, put it in your pantry, shake it every day. 2 weeks, you've got something that's useful.
What does it do?
I'm sorry?
What does it do?
Oh, the nettles?
Uh-huh.
It is a blood builder, it is a cleanser, and it's a diuretic. So it builds your body's resistance to allergens and pollutants and mold. You can also use a root tincture. It is anti-inflammatory and particularly good for prostatitis. So you men over 50, that's a really helpful thing to keep in mind. There is a tincture that I make every year, and it always seems to test well for people. It's cleavers, nettles, and corn silk. And it's a really good combination for kidney health and your lymphatic system. So it's helping you detox and support the kidneys. So that's the next one, is cleavers. Cleavers are the plant that actually inspired Velcro. And so it's a leaf that kind of looks like a hand. It's got lots of little spokes that go out, and it'll stick to your clothes. So it's very good for lymphatic circulation. It's also a blood purifier like the nettles are. It's good for urinary infections, kidney stones, kidney inflammation, prostatitis. It's a diuretic, so it helps get rid of any swelling in the body that's due to your kidneys not moving fluid out. Swollen glands, tonsillitis, earache. And you can use it topically. If you make yourself a tincture, you can dilute it and use it topically as well for poison ivy and poison oak, and sunburn, psoriasis, any kind of skin issues. All right, the next one is horsetail, and this is they call it a prehistoric looking plant. If you've ever seen it, it's just a single stalk, and it has a lot of silica in it. So it's really good for tea, and it helps because silica is a mineral that's really important for building collagen in the body and healing broken bones. It's a mineral that makes up our bones, not one that they usually talk about, but that will help with healing broken bones. You know, collagen isn't just about our skin and looking beautiful and young, but we need it for our organs, our muscles, our soft tissue, ligaments, tendons, and things, as well as the bones. It also happens to be a blood purifier, good for varicose veins as well as the kidneys. So that one is the preferred use of that is with the tea.
Now, which one was that? I'm sorry.
Horsetail.
Horsetail.
I have this as an outline. If anybody wants to have a copy, just email me later. I also have my list of books that I used as source material, and Making Plant Medicine is one of the ones for when you look at the different herbs. How do I prepare this? Is it best as a tincture? Is it best as a tea? That sort of thing.
And then when the video's up on the website, I'll have the outline as a link at the bottom of it.
Okay.
So you can always come back to the website to get the outline as well.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Drew. All right, a couple more plants. Black walnut. This is one, it's actually toxic to horses, so just keep that in mind. But we used to collect the hulls, and you could run over them with the car to free the hulls from the actual nut. But that's good in a tincture. It contains iodine, which is a needed mineral resource. If you can't do seaweed, then the black walnut is a good source of iodine. It's also anti-parasitic, and there are stories that, using it in your mouth, you swish with it and then you swallow, not only for parasites, but for healing cavities as well. And that's a tincture made from the black hulls. And the last one is dandelion. Of course, some people think it's a weed and you want to get it out of your yard, but the root is very powerful medicine, and you can use the dried root. You make a tincture. When you look at the books, it'll give you a way to prepare it. It'll say like 1 to 5, and that is the ratio of the alcohol to the actual plant material. So this is really, really good for liver function. And, with all of the toxicities today, we all have challenges with the liver. It's also, liver is part of your immune system as well. So it's a blood cleanser. And I think I've mentioned there's like 3 or 4 blood cleansers. And you can combine it with burdock for staph infections. And you can use the greens in salads. So it's a bitter, and that helps with your digestion as well. The directions, it's called Making Plant Medicine, is the one book that I use that tells you how to make the tinctures and the ratios to use. I won't go into all those details, but basically you can use grain alcohol if you can get it, or you can, and then you would have to dilute that with water. And there's a certain percentage and all. You'll find that on the internet, probably a lot of different sources, but I like having books because we never know how much longer we're going to have the internet.
That's right.
And so you would want to, once you finish the 2 weeks or 6 weeks, however, 3 weeks, whatever it recommends for making the tincture, then you want to pour it into a dark bottle so that it's protected from sunlight. Brewing teas, you can pour the hot water over the plant material, and that's how you brew the tea. There are decoctions, which is when you actually have to simmer it. So for some of the harder plant materials like roots and bark, you would have to decoct it. And the poultice, as I mentioned before, that's to be used topically. You can, especially for wounds, bruises, things like that. And you would spread the paste of the plant material onto the body. Our grandmothers and great-grandmothers would make garlic poultices and things like that. So there's a lot of that out there. It's also good for pulling, drawing out pain, splinters, swelling, infections, toxins, that sort of thing. So bites and stings and those sorts of things that can lead to infections as well. You get ahead of it. Epsom salt baths and soaks are really good for that as well. I wanted to mention briefly essential oils. I'm sure a lot of you use. I've been hearing some talk, and I saw some out on the counter there, which is great. I thought, well, what would be my top 3 if I could only have 3, because I have a lot. at home too. In fact, I don't even know what some of them do. But tea tree oil or melaleuca, that's a really good one. It's very broad, antifungal, antibacterial, useful for many different issues. Frankincense is another one that's very good for burns, and it's also anti-inflammatory, headaches, migraines, that sort of thing. And peppermint. And it seems like a really basic one, but it's cooling. It is good for your air passages. So I used to, growing up, use like the nasal spray. You get a sinus issue and you gotta lay down at night and you can't breathe. But I found if I put a drop of peppermint on my tongue, it opens up the nasal passages. And then you can breathe without having to use something that is addictive, really. And then also nausea. With peppermint, you can just smell the oil, you can put it on your stomach, but that's really helpful. Of course, you can use the herb as well. If you grow peppermint, you have your own, you can make peppermint tea and get the same uses out of it. Okay, next I want to talk about nutrients. And I just want to say I'm not a certified nutritionist. Some people get a little upset if we don't have these certifications and licenses, but this is just basic stuff I got from books and off the internet, so I'm just sharing what I've learned. There's a few vitamins that we really need that tend to be deficient in our food and or we use up a lot of them. One of them is vitamin C. Now, if you buy commercial vitamin C or mixed vitamins, multivitamins, that sort of thing, you're going to find ascorbic acid in there. And that's not natural. It's not a good form. If you use ascorbic acid, then it interferes with your copper bioavailability. So I recommend avoiding ascorbic acid all the way around. So what are the good sources of vitamin C? You want whole food vitamins across the board. Synthetic vitamins, they're really no better than pharmaceuticals. But some good sources of vitamin C are camu camu, acerola cherry, and of course citrus that we're all familiar with. And if you search, you can find, camu camu. I know Azure Standard carries that as a powder, and you can just, mix it in your drink or your yogurt or whatever you're having. And vitamin E is another one that people tend to be deficient in, and it's important for heart health in particular. Wheat germ oil is a good source of a natural vitamin E. There's a lot of hype about vitamin D. And a lot of doctors, both medical doctors and alternative doctors, will say, oh, you're deficient in vitamin D, or you've got cancer, you need to take vitamin D. And, Yah has given our bodies the ability to manufacture vitamin D. If your liver is weak, it makes it more difficult for you. If you live in Montana, it makes it more difficult for you. So if you can't get out in the sun, there are actually receptors on the top of your shoulder. Particular men, take your shirts off when you get out in the sun. It doesn't take long for your body to begin to manufacture that vitamin D. So the two problems with vitamin D testing and supplementation. First of all, most doctors will test for storage vitamin D in your blood, but that's not where you find stored vitamin D. It would be stored in your liver, for instance. So there are accurate tests that look for circulating vitamin D. If you want to pay for those tests, go ahead. But so what they're finding as deficient is not really deficient. It's just misplaced. They're not looking in the right place, right? But they're a good source. And the other thing is, if you take the supplemental vitamin D, it does cause a potassium wasting in the kidney. And it also imbalances your vitamin A. So we look to the natural food source, which would be cod liver oil. And it has a perfect balance of vitamin D and vitamin A.
Is that generally true for all our like supplements that we would take in pill form? Don't they kind of all suffer from a deficiency that isn't quite as good as the natural source?
Well, yes, like I said, any artificial forms of vitamins, I don't think they're really necessarily any better than pharmaceuticals. And they can cause other imbalances in the body because they're synthetic. But I would ask first, are you really deficient? That would be the first question.
Yeah, if you read the label on vitamin bottles, if it's substituting the natural for a chemical, they'll have to print it out on this in parentheses. It will say blah blah blah. So you can pretty quickly and easily determine if it's good or bad just by reading the label.
And I look for supplements that are labeled whole food forms. So that's how I do it. The B vitamins, if you're interested, oh yeah, go ahead.
So vitamin D, cod liver oil, is there any other?
You can take it in capsules.
Okay.
You don't have to do the spoonful.
Thank you.
B vitamins. Now, most of what you'll get in supplement form are synthetic for B vitamins. So look at bee pollen and nutritional yeast. Those are really good sources of the bees. Also, grass-fed beef liver does contain the B vitamins as well, and vitamin A. That's okay. I thought you were waving at me.
What was bee pollen and what was the other thing?
Nutritional yeast.
Oh, yeah.
Nutritional yeast plates are great on popcorn too.
Yeah, there you go.
They are so
From
good.
a lot of
So
it.
good.
Yeah.
Popcorn.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about minerals now. So I hit the highlights of the 4 vitamins. Minerals, magnesium comes to the top of the list because we're in a stressful lifetime, right? This is today. And it's not just the stress of work and the stress of the kids and, your phone, everything stresses our bodies. The other stressors I'll get into a little bit later, but there's what's called a magnesium burn rate. So if you are being stressed, you will burn through a lot more magnesium than somebody that's got shalom, like Drew. I'm sure you have stress too.
It doesn't show.
It's also involved in 80% of the metabolic processes in our body. There are many different forms of magnesium. So I would, if you need more for your heart, look at magnesium taurate. If you need more for energy, magnesium malate. For rest and sleep, magnesium glycinate. So the glycinate and malate are probably your 2 most absorbable forms. But there's some that help with muscle pain, joint pain, that sort of thing. But you've got lots of choices there. Now, heart function is so important because magnesium does affect our muscles. And remember, the heart is a muscle. As far as food sources, we have cashews, almonds, Brazil nuts, so 3 of the big nuts, greens, seeds, legumes, cocoa, everybody, and salmon. But you want to obviously get the wild-caught salmon. But it's hard in this day and age to get the amount of magnesium that you need, especially when I see clients and they're just starting off. I find that using some supplements to get the magnesium levels up to an optimal range is really a good start. And then they'll find that their symptoms are reduced, and maybe you can go back to just eating the foods to fulfill your nutritional needs. Secondly is copper. And there's beginning to get a lot more studies on copper. Now, the studies were done even 100 years ago, but they haven't been well publicized in the medical community for a lot of reasons. But what the food industry did was back in, I think it was the 40s, they started adding iron to our food. And if you read your labels, anything that's wheat-based and not organic is going to be enriched. You'll see enriched or what's the other word they use? But you'll see synthetic B vitamins added, and you'll see ferrous or ferric sulfate, something like that, and that's iron. And it's a metal form of iron. And so what happens, you eat pasta or bread or cereal, virtually everywhere you're getting that iron. And it becomes toxic in the body. It causes oxidation. You think if you leave your iron skillet out in the rain, when it oxidizes, it gets wet, it gets oxygen, it becomes rust. And so that's what happens in the body, particularly in the gut. And we all have heard about, leaky gut and this sort of thing. Liver issues, they're so prevalent in adults. And you see it as you're aging, particularly women when you hit menopause. Okay, so what stopped happening there? You stopped losing iron in your monthly cycle. So a lot of what we see in menopause symptoms are related to iron toxicity, particularly in the liver. So what do you do? First of all, you need to avoid those toxic foods. Looking for organic things that are not enriched. That's a good first step. Don't ever take supplements that have iron added. Don't get the IV. And a lot of people, it's funny because I have sometimes clients come in and I go, you've been told you're anemic, haven't you? And oh yeah. Do you have iron infusions? Yes. Well, the iron infusions have so much iron in it, way more than we need. The problem is, it's not that you're iron deficient, it's that the iron is stuck. It can be stuck in your brain, most likely your gut or your liver. And so what we need is the key to unlock those stores and get it out into your blood where the hemoglobin can carry the oxygen around and you'll have the energy again that you need, that you're supposed to have. And the key to unlock those iron stores is copper. And it's particularly in the form of ceruloplasmin. And copper is used for, I don't even have the number of metabolic processes in the body, but it is so important. And by regulating the iron, it's removing toxicity from our bodies. It removes it from the tissues, where the tissues, when you have iron in your tissues, you're aging in those tissues. And let's see.
Amanda, can I
Yes.
make a comment? While you're
Sure,
going
yeah,
through
go
this?
ahead.
So I have had issues over the last few years with high ferritin in my blood levels to the point where it was 6 times what the maximum recommended level in my blood was. And my doctor told me that the only way to get rid of it is to donate blood to the Red Cross. But by doing that, I gave, over a 3-year period, I gave a gallon of blood, and it's down to under 100 now, which is what you're supposed to have.
A lot of people recommend donating blood. In some of the studies that I've done, I donated for 2 or 3 years, and my iron levels did not change in the toxic parts. And then someone told me that you are creating an ungodly soul tie when you're donating blood, because the life is in the blood. And we don't know what's happening to our blood in some of these places. So
Actually, they do. I get emails from Red Cross telling me exactly where my blood went, this hospital or wherever else.
yeah, you believe it?
Well, why not?
So I
Why would they
personally,
lie about such things?
I personally, right? Why would they lie?
Why would they lie?
What else could they use the blood for? I don't know. But personally, I've decided to stop donating blood. And I found another way that I feel is actually better. There is IP6, it's called. I can't remember exactly what that stands for off the top of my head, but it's a supplement that will pull out that toxic iron from the body. And I'm seeing better results from that than the donations.
Or the copper?
The copper is going to mobilize, yes, you need the copper in balance as well.
So you need to take the IP6 and the copper.
But not at the same time.
Okay.
What if you're drinking from a copper mug?
It's a little bit inconclusive
Okay.
as to how much that helps. You want bioavailable copper, And using the cod liver oil with it actually helps the body absorb it better, make better use of it.
Again with the cod liver.
When you say not at the same time, what kind of a delay are you talking about?
So the IP6 is to be taken at bedtime on an empty stomach. Because you don't want it to bind up anything else that may be nutritious.
The minerals you take at night, right? Vitamins you take in the morning, correct?
I take my vitamins and minerals morning and noon. And then, I have dinner and wait 2 hours and then I'll take the IP6 before bed. I don't use it every day, but for someone who's highly iron toxic, that's probably a good.
So that's when your iron toxic is too high. So I was told that I was anemic and they wanted me to take iron pills and I was like, no, you're not going to do that.
It's
So-
like the vitamin D. It's being stored somewhere in the body. And because you don't have enough copper, it can't get out of the tissues. It's the copper that releases it back into the blood, which is what they test, right?
Right.
They don't take a biopsy of your liver. I mean, they could, but that wouldn't be fun.
No.
I
think I just scared you. No.
Let's see.
Amanda,
Yes.
so cast iron, we should not cook in cast iron if we have high levels of iron in our body already?
There's mixed reports on that as well. I think what you're getting from food is a bigger deal, like what's added to the food. I still use cast iron cookware. What are your options? I mean, you can use stainless steel, but there's so many other toxicities in cookware. But if you get enough copper going, your body can mobilize it. And our copper actually decreases with age. And also, so let me go back to my sheep farming days. We had black sheep. Some of our sheep were black. Well, when you have dark hair and dark skin, your body requires more copper. So all of a sudden, I'm noticing my black sheep, the roots are gray. And it had grown out. That sheep died. And I found out later, well, a lot of sheep breeds they get copper toxicity very easily. Well, I went to the feed store. I said, can I have some copper sulfate for my sheep? They said, Matt, let me get the manager. Do you know what you're doing? And so I had read and researched that. That was even before I got into natural health. But I learned through the death of that one sheep that the Icelandic sheep, coming from a mineral-rich climate, they needed more copper. And so if you start taking copper, you may see your hair start to turn dark again. That happens to some people. Yeah. So the best source of copper is actually, I mean, you can take, this is one place that I might consider taking a synthetic, and copper bisglycinate is probably the best. But you can get some copper from beef liver as well. It's a balance of copper and iron. But the drawback to that is you want grass-fed, you want organic. It's hard to source sometimes. And then also we don't know how much copper is actually present today because the soils are deficient. And that goes back to all of our nutritional deficiencies today. So if you're using, if you know where your food's coming from and you get regenerative farming connections, that's a great way to go. Someone that's using natural fertilizers on the food.
So if we can't eat beef liver or find a good source, how do we get more copper in?
Copper bisglycinate is an isolate.
Copper what?
Bisglycinate.
Does it have to be this? What about just glycinate?
Is that bisc?
BIS.
Bis.
Dash
Okay.
glycinate.
The vitamin I take is TRAACS, copper glycinate chelate.
That's probably a good one.
Ted Brewer is a good doctor.
Ted Brewer, oh,
I see.
you listen to him too? Yeah, that's right. I get my vitamin.
All right, so the next one is boron, and I had a little discussion with someone here. Boron is it's a micro mineral, but deficiencies, and the deficiencies come about because of chemical farming. that became really popular back in the 40s, NPK, add these 3 nutrients to your soil and you're good. And so much of our animals and plants are raised on these soils that are deficient in the micronutrients. Boron stops oxidative stress. It's for bone health, especially arthritis, hormone regulation, inflammation, heavy metals, pesticides. It also helps balance the electrical impulses in your brain, memory, and it's anti-cancer. And I don't have any food sources of that one that is really high enough. Some people espouse using some of the laundry cleaners. Borax, yes, meal team borax. And you can look online to find those formulas if you choose to do it that way, or you can get a little bottle of boron as a liquid supplement and it'll last a long time.
Doesn't avocados have an okay amount of boron in them? Not really?
It's if you're deficient and you have some of these symptoms, it's not going to be enough to fill your levels, right? So that's why. And I do recommend supplements in my practice. I don't use a lot. It depends what people are having issues with. But sometimes you need supplements for a couple of months to get things back in balance. And then if you're eating healthy, you're making good choices, and you're using things that are organic and have good levels, of course, even an avocado, you get good fatty acids, but it depends where it's grown, how it's grown, as to what kind of nutrient levels you get. And same with all foods.
Right.
Selenium is the next one. Now, selenium and iodine are kind of paired up, especially for thyroid health, breast health, ovaries. The selenium, and this is also for your adrenals and your thyroid. It's called the HPA axis, your hypothalamus. And so this is a communication system that it has to stay in balance. If you supplement iodine and you don't have enough selenium, you can crash. So these are really important. I eat Brazil nuts. I love Brazil nuts. And 4 a day supposedly will get you all the selenium you need. It's a micronutrient. You don't need huge amounts. There's also selenium-rich yeast, and that's what we used to feed our sheep.
I started doing that and I gained 5 pounds.
Oh, on the Brazil nuts?
Yes.
Well, you have to cut back someplace else, right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, you have it to lose, woman.
I had what?
You have it to lose.
You can afford to lose it. All right, so I mean, you can afford to gain it. I'm sorry.
You have it to gain. Yeah.
All right,
I did say that backwards, didn't I?
So the iodine is really important too. We don't eat seaweed, generally speaking, in this country. I mean, I love seaweed, but like I mentioned, the thyroid, the breast, the ovaries, these are really iodine. It's a necessary nutrient for these organs. And if you like kelp, that's great. There are iodine supplements, Lugol's in particular, liquid and then pill form. This comes from it's mined, I think, in Chile, or it's Blackie. But it comes from a ground source, so you don't have to worry about the contamination that you might with kelp and some other sea minerals. The seaweeds, we worry about not just mercury, but the radiation. Yeah. So iodine is crucial for detoxing bromides, chloride, and fluoride. So personally, I had a lot of bromide exposure when I was doing my wool, and I was dyeing wool, and I was putting it in a pot, and whether it's plant dyes, when we have our clothes, you can get dyes from your clothes. But I was dyeing yarn, and I'd open it and look at it and all that steam. And so I started having really difficult times with my thyroid. And so we have receptors, iodine receptors in our thyroid and our breasts, our ovaries. And when you get chlorine and fluoride and bromide, if you look at your periodic table, those will attach to the receptors and they get stuck there and your body can't absorb the iodine. So for a time, Dr. Brownstein talks about this. He's written a book on it. You need a higher level of iodine to free the receptors so that you can start absorbing the iodine again by detoxing. But that's another reason we don't want to drink fluoridated water, even swimming in the chlorinated pools, you know, and showering. If you're on city water and you've got fluoride, chlorine, you know, you're absorbing it through your skin as well. Trace minerals you can get a lot from sea salt. Real salt is a good one. Celtic salt, I like the gray salts. Those are my favorite because some of the pink salts have a lot of iron. You know, you get a little bit of a trade-off there. Oh, let's see. I want to talk a little bit about pH, and I mentioned with the moringa helping to balance pH. pH in your blood, it is balanced. Your body is always trying to balance your blood pH. And if you get too acidic, it's going to pull calcium from your bones because calcium can alkalinize your blood, right? Well, what happens when you pull calcium from your bone? You get weak bones, and then you can have precipitation of that calcium in the form of kidney stones, heel spurs, things like that. So, and the doctors will then tell you, oh, cut back on your calcium. You got too much calcium in your blood. But what you need to find out is why. And balancing your pH. Some of the things that acidosis, this is when your body's too acidic, can lead to diseases like cancer, kidney disease also particularly. Things like alcohol, caffeine, sugar, these are acidifying. And what does our society eat and drink, you know, all day long? Also, any carbonated drinks, those can pull the calcium from your bones as well. Even if it doesn't have sugar or artificial anything, just could be, you know, a seltzer.
Can I ask a question? What is your opinion of drinking decaf coffee as opposed, because I never drink caffeine coffee. Is decaf as bad? Organic decaf?
Coffee, actually, there are some antioxidant benefits to coffee. But, you know, keep it to a low dose. And if you have a problem with acidosis, then you might want to take a break. Alan drinks Dandy Blend, for instance. There are other herbal mixes if you like a warm cup. The problem with decaf is most decaf is decaffeinated through a chemical process.
That's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are some that are done with water, and if they're organic, then, you know.
Organic, yeah. Hazelnut organic decaf.
There you go. Sounds good.
Beans.
Uh-huh. All right. So some food sources of these healthy nutrients. I will tell you, grass-fed beef liver, 4 to 6 ounces once a week. If you can't get it or you don't like it, you can get it in capsules. It's dried, freeze-dried, dried, you know, and they're from, you know, look at your sourcing. You want organic, you want grass-fed again. Pastured eggs. Make sure that you're looking at pastured eggs, and they're going to cost you an arm and a leg. And this right now seems to be a shortage. They use all this terminology like free range, cage free. It's meaningless. They don't get grass unless it's pastured, and the grass is what makes the fatty acid profile healthy for you. Raw milk, preferably A2 if you can. A2 is an older breed of cattle, and so it's more absorbable by the body. The reason to avoid pasteurized and homogenized is it's devoid of nutrition. It has had the enzymes taken out so that now you have digestive issues regarding milk. Homogenization also causes the milk to be damaging to your blood vessels.
Wow.
Cheese. Now, I just read an article on cheese last week. You want, obviously, again, grass-fed, raw cheese if possible, organic, A2, look, all these things on the label is what you want. But you also want it to be cultured with animal rennet. And this is new to me. I thought, well, what's the deal with vegetarian rennet? I mean, it's no big deal. You can make cheese with the sap from the fig tree. But what they're doing with the vegetarian rennet now is it's all genetically modified.
It's mRNA.
Yeah, so Pfizer has a replacement for rennet, and they don't have to put it on the label.
Yes, that's right. But it'll say vegetarian or something. You want to look for an animal rennet sourced cheese. It sounds like y'all are very knowledgeable on that.
Good luck. I guess I was under the impression that you weren't able to determine if the rennet was from pork fat or not.
You can't.
Rennet from pork fat?
Or like the rennet was from pigs, essentially. Like the rennet was manufactured from pigs.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But otherwise you're going to be giving up cheese altogether.
I know, I'd have to go back and read
I
what I
didn't-
read. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I kind of thought that's what I read.
Well, you want to avoid your marshmallows, obviously.
Yeah.
Anything gelatin. Yeah, you have to really be careful with the gelatin too, with your capsules, And I tend to buy my own capsules and fill them as much as possible. Or I'm looking now with Azure Standard supplements, it's all kosher. You're not going to get any pork ingredients in those. Yes.
How about feta cheese? Do they have to use rennet in that one too?
I'm not sure. I would look at it. I think all cheese has to use some sort of rennet to make it coagulate. Alrighty. Greens, cruciferous vegetables, raw fruits and vegetables. We all know that. Those are important for us for getting the nutrients. If you have digestive issues, maybe the raw stuff is too hard on your digestive system initially. So that might need some correction first, and then you can start adding. Of course, the raw foods have the enzymes in them, and those have benefits for us. The cruciferous vegetables particularly bind up excess estrogens and really just generally healthy for us. I like using the microgreens, grow my own sprouts, like broccoli sprouts and stuff like that. They're very easily digestible instead of, eating the little trees.
And it can also have a negative effect on the thyroid also.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Too much.
If it's raw,
Yeah.
it can have a goitrogenic effect. You want to try to stay organic. Obviously, it's not foolproof. They can get away with stuff, I think, that we may not know about.
If it crosses state lines, they have to spray it with pesticides. So if you, even if it says organic, because it's organically grown. So because of this, there's a whole thing about the federal government if it crosses state lines. So if you look for organic, look for it in your area.
If it crosses state lines,
They spray it with pesticides and.
if it's not packaged, I would assume.
From what I don't know, you know what, I don't know about that.
I'm going to ask Azure about that because I do buy some produce from them, and it's coming by truck from Oregon to Florida.
Yeah, ask them about that. Yeah, I do know
That's a
that
good
in
question.
grocery stores.
I don't think
that
they
maybe-
pesticide it, because I know
Radiate,
someone who
maybe.
works there.
That's good.
Yeah.
I want to just talk a second about eating order. And this is a way that, if you have blood sugar issues, you want to eat your vegetables and your meat first, and then your carbohydrates last. But also combining, I know pretty much every man I've ever met likes the meat and potatoes, right? In some form or other. But when you have mostly your digestion of starches in the mouth, and your meat, your animal products are digested in the stomach with your hydrochloric acid. So if you eat let's say I had your potatoes first, had a bite or two of potatoes, all the amylase, the starch enzymes are in the mouth, they're breaking that down, you swallow it, and it's also suddenly neutralized your stomach acid. So now you can't really digest your meat well. So combining starches and meats are not great. You're better to have meat with a salad or your vegetables, or just have starches and your vegetables, one or the other. But also a simple way to a lot of people have trouble with digesting meats, If you are an A or an AB blood type, you don't have as much stomach acid, you can raise that by putting a little salt in maybe a tablespoon of warm water 15 minutes before any time you're eating an animal protein. And that will help. It's like the source that your body needs to build up your hydrochloric acid, your stomach acid, to break down the proteins. And if your proteins aren't broken down well, then that causes kidney issues. And if you'll see people with kidney issues that just eat too much protein. I talked a little bit about supplements, why they're needed. Sometimes it's because you have digestive issues that you're not getting your nutrition. You're not able to break down the food properly so that the nutrients can come out. And if you're starting off with severe deficiencies, those are things that I might use, maybe taking enzymes or certain supplements for a while. The ones that I spoke about are the ones that I prioritize with my clients as well. I want to talk, I have a lot to cover here, but let me move through, and then we'll do some question and answer at the end. Toxicity, I know you all know a lot of this already, but we have food sources. Everybody knows to avoid the white sugar, right? It causes cancer. Use coconut sugar or honey, something basic. Potassium bromate is in breads, and that is a bromide that interferes with the thyroid function. It also interferes with your kidneys and can cause DNA damage. BHA is a preservative, to avoid the preservatives. High fructose corn syrup, obviously that can cause fatty liver disease. BHT is another preservative that these should have been outlawed. I think they are outlawed in Europe, in fact. These are cancer-causing preservatives. Hydrogenated oils and omega-6 oils, the seed oils, they cause a lot of inflammation in the body. In fact, if people have high cholesterol, the medical community generally says, oh, you need a statin, your cholesterol's too high. Well, first of all, that's a questionable theory that you actually need to lower your cholesterol. But some people do have really high cholesterol. It can be due to a thyroid issue. It can be just an inflammatory process in the body, and you want to get to the root cause of that. Why do you have all this inflammation? Is it because you have oxidized iron somewhere in your body that's causing that ongoing inflammation?
And statin drugs also cause dementia and Alzheimer's.
Yeah, they're not good. We won't even go there. But even some of the fish with the heavy metals, tuna, swordfish particularly, are high in mercury. You want to stay with the smaller fish or, wild caught salmon. I think Dr. P would probably encourage that from Alaska. Of course, we don't eat shellfish. That's Torah-based anyway, but from a practical standpoint, they're meant to clear the ocean. They're cleaners. Then we need to leave them there because there's a lot of cleanup to do.
That also includes krill.
Yes, that's right. A lot of people take krill supplements, but they're all they are is tiny little shrimp, basically. Mm-hmm. There's propyl gallate and propylparaben. These are preservatives used in like tortillas, muffins. Then you have food dyes. These are endocrine disruptors, and your endocrine system is what controls your whole metabolic process, as well as your fertility.
What's that name again?
Propyl anything. Propyl gallate, propylparaben. And they cause breast cancer in women as well. Natural and artificial flavors. I mean, who doesn't love natural? When they say it's natural, it should be natural, right? Well, these may contain synthetic chemicals. I heard something recently that they come from beaver anal in particular. And they can say it's natural because it's natural. It's come from an animal, but it's not clean, that's for sure. Propylene glycol is another additive you'll see in a lot of foods. It's a probable carcinogen. Artificial colors, these cause tumors, behavioral issues in children. Diacetyl, 1 + 1 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 + 1 = 2 with permanent scarring. Phosphates in baked goods, meats, processed, fast food. We don't eat that, right? That can cause increased cardiovascular risk. Now, aluminum. I'm sure most of you know, the aluminum deodorants, antiperspirants. You want to avoid that because anything we put on our skin is absorbed into the body. And then, of course, baking powder. Some brands of baking powder have aluminum in it. Just get back to reading labels. This is what I can tell you. This persists in the bones. It's stored in our bones in our body, and it's a likely connection to Alzheimer's.
Cook with aluminum foil.
Aluminum foil, that's right. Cook with it, don't cook with it, don't store it in it. And then again, BPA, we have the plastics that this is usually used for food storage. It's like, get to, what's the paper stuff that I use?
Like parchment paper?
Parchment paper, yeah, you go back to that, wax paper, parchment paper. It's not really cool, I'm sure, if you've got kids, but it's definitely a lot better. Let's see, grilled meats. I know we all love our grilled, but you really want to watch how much of the blackened part. This is a cancer-causing part. And then, of course, cured meats with the nitrates and nitrites, stomach and esophageal cancer is what they're linked to. Now that we have personal care products, what you wash your hair with, what you put on your skin, these are so many of them have endocrine disruptors, which can cause hair loss, low libido, estrogenic cancers like breast cancer and colon cancer. Low energy can make you cold because it affects your thyroid. And then there's phthalates, BPS, PCBs, dioxins, parabens. If you see any of these things listed in your shampoo, your conditioners, just get rid of it. Triclosan, since COVID, we have all these hand sanitizers everywhere. Stay as far away as you can from these things because it's the antibacterial soaps, the antibacterial, the stuff you don't need to rinse off, supposedly. But those are very damaging to your endocrine system as well. Of course, fluoride in toothpaste, aluminum in the antiperspirant. Lotion, shampoo, conditioners, cosmetics. If you're, I have here clue on the deodorant. If you're eating right, you may not need it. If your body is functioning well so that you're detoxing, you sweat and then you take a shower. And then if you're not exercising at that moment, then you shouldn't be sweating a whole lot.
And we actually had a question do you aware of any supplements or nutrients that might help for someone who's like under sweating? It feels like they're not clearing themselves out as well as they would like to.
I can't name a particular supplement for that. It's a balancing of the whole body system. I've got a horse with that issue right now, actually. Dental amalgams, some of us got them back in the day. We didn't have a lot of choices. But tattoos as well. When you think about, there's a spiritual aspect to tattoos. You're breaking the skin, you're breaking that matrix of protection that y'all's given us, but also the toxins in the metals. They're going to be absorbed in the body. And you know how tattoos fade over the years? They get lighter and lighter. It's your liver processing and working hard to get rid of it. And we were just talking at the pool, it seems like everybody's got tattoos now. So if you were ever thinking of it,
Don't.
then there's home products. We've got our cleaning products. We've got the scents, the plugins, all of that. They're all, not good. Water. And this is really hard because not everybody has access to good, clean water. And you've got downsides. If all you can get is bottled water, you've got the plastics. But still, that's probably better than the fluoride and the chlorine in your city water. They're forever chemicals. They're not getting those out. Things like Teflon, PFAS, the stain-resistant, waterproof stuff on clothing. It's all back in the water, as well as the pharmaceuticals, the birth control and all these hormones and things. You're going to get it if you're not drinking good, clean water. These can cause low birth weight in babies, high cholesterol, weight gain in children. So looking at clean water is one of the first things that I will do with the client is, what kind of a filter are you using? Let's see. There's also heavy metals in the water as well, and plastics. The air, this is something we don't have as much control over because, well, we see the lines in the sky, and I won't mention the name, but they're admitting that they're doing some cloud seeding and things, and we don't know exactly what's up there, but we got to breathe the air that is around us. Maybe using air purifiers in your home, and I don't mean the fresheners, the air, something to clean the air. I try not to spend as much time outside on the days that I see a lot of haze in the sky. Then we have electromagnetic radiation, and this is another thing. These are the kinds of things that are stressing our bodies today, and it's not like the emotional stress, like I got to perform at work or whatever. This is just physical stress on our bodies, and it's continual. Especially, we got our phones on all the time. Using your phone in a car is probably the worst thing because the signals are bouncing and bouncing in there. Electric cars too. You're getting that signal. You're getting electrified in there. And don't forget, our brains are electrical. Our hearts are electrical. There's electrical impulses that go through our whole bodies. But so at least limit it as much as you can. When I'm working at the computer, I have a grounding mat there that I put the phone on. And if I have to be talking to someone or doing stuff, I'm not actually holding it in my hand. There's just one little thing I've done. I always turn the phone off at night or put it in another room. If you use it for your alarm, at least put it in airplane mode and turn your Wi-Fi off at night. You can set that automatically so it goes off at 10 o'clock or whatever.
What if you can't do that?
What do you mean can't do it? Why?
My daughter has to reach me 24/7 because she's bedridden.
Okay, so can she call you on the cell phone?
Yes.
So put it in the other room, at least 10 feet away from you.
I think you,
Turn up the ringer.
I won't hear it.
What about a pager? Then go get your phone.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll try that.
And yeah.
you could get well, no, that might not work. I was like, you can get a baby monitor, put it in the other room.
I would say like at least like near your head. So
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
It's on my
Yeah.
bookshelf, which is a good ways away.
They say 10 feet is right.
Another thing you can do too is most cell phones still have an audio jack on them, and so you can get a 3.5 millimeter plug and you can hardwire a headset onto it, not use Bluetooth.
They've eliminated that.
It's in my new phone over here.
Mine doesn't have it, but you can get
iPhone?
You can get Bluetooth headphones that are the tubes now too, and that reduces whatever you do. Do not use the Bluetooth ones that go in your ear because it's so close to your brain. It's really, really bad radiation. I actually had a client who had a brain tumor, like behind his ear from putting the phone up against. So use speakerphone as much as possible. If you need to use headphones, the ones I got, they're the hollow tube, so it's not as much.
Or get a wired headset.
Yeah.
I sleep on a grounding mat.
A grounding mat, yeah, that's great. There's a lot of remediation we can do. Of course, just grounding. If you can get outside and put your feet on the ground. Yes.
What's a grounding mat?
It's a mat that takes the place of going outside and putting your feet on the ground. You plug it into the little hole. You have the two prongs and
An
the hole.
electrical outlet.
Yeah. And so it grounds to the earth, and you have to check and make
They
sure.
have sheets like that too.
They have sheets.
They have grounding sheets?
Mhm.
Yes.
So when you're grounding, your body is releasing the negative ions.
I
And
could find this online, I suppose.
Check.
it's also called earthing.
Earthing,
Yeah.
yeah, and mine is an earthing mat, yeah.
Yeah, that's the.
Nice, okay.
Dr. Sinatra.
So the electromagnetic radiation is very toxic to our bodies. even 3G, 4G, and now we're at 5 and 6G. They're looking at 6G, which I'm not sure as a species that humans can actually survive that. But it damages our DNA, can cause cancer, interferes with sleep. It affects our heart rate and rhythm. And there are devices that you can wear that will harmonize, that's what this is, harmonize the negative frequencies so that your body can, balance itself without being under constant stress from that. Because we really, even if you don't hold your cell phone and you're not putting it up against your head, we've got the cell towers and we've got the smart meters in your home. And those they're bouncing signals constantly all day and night. So if you can avoid the smart meters, great. If you can't, there's some shielding things that you can look for. I don't think people realize how damaging it is, especially if it's in the same room where you sleep or on the other side of the wall even. Those signals go through the wall.
And then people that have come to your house and check your EMF readouts for your home.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
can
there
get
are people who specialize in
Yeah,
that.
there's some good handheld ones too. This is the other reason why you don't want anything smart, no smart appliances. That is
Yeah.
getting increasingly difficult as they're like manufacturing less and less and less of them. But
That's right.
if you have to replace your appliance, definitely do your due diligence and try to find one that doesn't connect to the internet.
Yep. Yeah. Also, we all know of the challenges with pharmaceuticals. We don't want to be taking medications that we could be fixing things with naturally, like all the things I just talked about. Sometimes, let's say you have to have a surgery. I don't want to have surgery without anesthesia. Okay, that's just my preference. But I had a collarbone repair about 1.5 years ago. And there was no way I was going to go in there and let me, cut an 8-inch gash. There are times when we are thankful to have emergency care and pharmaceuticals to save, during. But once you come out of that, you come out of your anesthesia, then you need to detox that. And then you need to use natural pain relievers. Get into the natural stuff again as quickly as possible. I wanted to tell you that the spoken words, and Stacy's on this too, our words have so much power. Our words have frequency. And when we speak kindness to people, when we say thank you, we're harmonizing our bodies and others' bodies and spirits as well. There's also venoms. Now, I won't get too deep into this, but a lot of the pharmaceuticals are based on venoms, for blood pressure control and some of these things. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but you have the toxicity and the side effects of most pharmaceuticals. They almost all have side effects and damage to your organs, long-term use especially, even over-the-counter things like Tylenol and Motrin and that. And then, of course, like Drew mentioned, they have unclean sources, especially if you've got venoms, that's not considered a clean animal if it's sourced from something like that. And the pork, for instance, I used to take thyroid medication, and the natural thyroid medications are made from pork thyroid. Beef thyroid doesn't have the same, you can signal the body with something like that, but it doesn't replace your own thyroid hormone, like if you've had to have your thyroid removed.
Amanda, a lot of the adrenal supplements also are porcine.
Interesting, okay. Yeah, as I mentioned, the supplements with Azure Standard they're kosher. They are Torah keepers as well. So that's a nice place you can go and get some clean supplements for whatever you're looking for.
Yeah, and I had read the Renee. I was a little wrong, a little right. It's really just the Renee and like the fake cheese that you might have an issue with. So we're already
the rennet.
the
Okay.
Rennet, you're already avoiding that anyway. But yeah, you were right. It's traditionally from ruminants.
Yep.
Dandelion root tea works well with adrenals. So
Yeah.
if you want to bring those back up, you go off of coffee for like 2 weeks, make a gallon of that, and drink that, and that'll balance it back out.
You can also balance your adrenals with a good salt, a vitamin C, like an orange juice, and a potassium source, like cream of tartar. Mix that up first thing in the morning. It'll get your adrenals energy to get going. Remediation, in terms of getting rid of some of these toxicities. We've talked a little bit about it, about the earthing. Sauna is another really good way to get rid of, especially heavy metals, sweating. You know, going out and working in the garden, you sweat, but it's not the same as sauna. So the sauna really works at a deeper level, especially if it's an infrared sauna. And so when you're doing that, when you're using these type of things, whether like an ionic foot bath, you're doing grounding, you might be taking some things that will help pull some of the heavy metals and toxins, you want to take a binder. And so this is really important. Some of the binders that are good are bentonite clay, and this will bind mycotoxins, and these are from molds, pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, candida, which can be overgrown in the body, and then E. coli, which is what we think of with, foodborne illnesses. Chlorella and spirulina are good binders and pullers, especially for heavy metals, food additives, xenobiotics, and pesticides. Yeah.
Amanda, the infrared sauna, might that be a good thing for what Drew was asking you, talking about not sweating enough?
It can be dangerous if you're not sweating now. You'd have to really monitor, because you could overheat too fast. So a lot of times it's adrenal support that's needed for non-sweaters. Diatomaceous earth, and this is a microorganism. This can detox, and I hadn't really thought about this in terms of, is this clean or unclean? Maybe somebody else has a little bit more, but it's the silica remnants of microorganisms from the ocean. And that can detox aluminum, fungi, bacteria, heavy metals, pesticides. It also kills parasites and candida.
And you have to make sure you always use food grade, not the
Food
DE
grade,
hormones.
yes, that's right. And drink plenty of water with it too, because it's dehydrating. And be careful not to breathe it when you're mixing it. Activated charcoal, I personally like the bamboo charcoal, that's a good one. It's gonna bind up some of these things. So what you don't wanna do is take something that's going to pull the metals, and then they're floating around your bloodstream and they can go back into your brain. So you need to bind them up in the bloodstream so they'll be carried out through your bowel and not have to stress the kidneys either. Activated charcoal pectin, which is primarily apple-based, and the fulvic and humic acid is minerals from the soil. This provides minerals as well as removes mycotoxins, heavy metals, and attracts free radicals.
What was that last one?
Fulvic and humic acid.
Fulvic.
Fulvic. Other things you can do to help detox is liver and gallbladder flushes, castor oil packs. I heard everybody talking about castor oil, but the liver, it's really helps support the liver. Coffee enemas. So if you want your coffee, take it straight out. So it helps increase your glutathione production, and it also allows the liver to flush the toxins that get built up in there. It's also really some alternative cancer institutes use it, like a lot of times. Neti pots. We don't think about our sinuses so much sometimes, but we breathe in through our nose. We get a lot of toxins. When you get sinus infections and colds and things, it's because you might need to clear that out. Neti pot, everybody know what that is? Mm-hmm.
But I learned good water in it.
There you go. You want to use distilled water. Don't use, whatever you do, don't use faucet water for that. I heard about a guy that got a brain amoeba from using Epsom salts, that's pulling it out through the skin. And then there's oil pulling, which is cleaning your mouth and also works on your sinuses. It helps to pull toxicity from the body.
Oh, and how do you do that? Oh,
oil pulling, you're going to take like maybe a tablespoon of coconut oil is what I like. And you put it in your mouth and you suck it around in there. for 10 minutes, and then you want to spit it out. Outside, you don't want to put it in your toilet or your sink because it can clog things up. But you pulled out a lot of toxicity that way, and then you're spitting it out with the oil, and then rinse with warm salt water.
Interesting.
I know I'm getting really to the end of my time here. Am I?
No, you have a half an hour.
I got a half an hour?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
good. This is kind of a fun part, and I don't know if y'all know this, but you can evaluate what's going on inside your body. Obviously, you know some symptoms like, oh, I got this heavy feeling. My liver's congested, all right? I'm aware of that. But you can look at your face a lot of times and know what's going on the inside. Also, your sleep disruption. There's certain times at night that your body is going through clearing cycles. And you can look up that on the internet, but sleep cycles, if you keep waking up at the same time of night, you're gonna know, okay, that's because my kidneys or my liver is stressed. And so then you can take your herbs and fix it, right? But looking at your face, if you have lines, dark spots, growths, anything like that between the eyebrows, or like crow's feet, that's all related to liver, right? You see people with that frown line there. I used to have a very deep one before I started working on my liver, and it's almost gone. The kidneys is around the eyes. So if you have a saggy eyelid, puffiness, or dark circles under the eyes, just get a mirror out.
I think I have everything you've mentioned so far.
Sometimes you'll see growths forming. I was like, I got this dark spot on my eyelid. I just noticed. That kidney, that's the left kidney, right? Okay, so that coordinates on that side in particular. So your eyelids and under eye areas, kidneys. Necklines here. Well, I've had that since I was 19.
Oh.
And it's a thyroid, it's an iodine deficiency, actually. It's related to thyroid. My mother had thyroid cancer, so there's a weakness there that I've been aware of. Also, the ends of your eyebrows, if they're thin, she's laughing. That is related to thyroid as well.
Oh yeah, I'm falling apart, y'all.
Well, I think thyroid is probably one of the most underdiagnosed issues we have probably in the modern.
What is it, thyroid?
Thyroid, yeah.
And that's because of the toxicity of we're constantly being exposed to the fluoride and chlorine in particular.
And this is where weight challenges can come from a lot of times
Absolutely.
too. People always let it go to diet, which is great, exercise, which is great, but your thyroid will inhibit your progress if those things aren't seeing the results.
For sure. And if you're cold all the time, it's
Yeah.
a sign that your thyroid is under functioning. So you can check that with basal thermometers when you first get up in the morning. So your cheeks. The stomach is the top part here, and the bottom part is your lungs. And I'll just tell you a little story. When my son was at college, and he goes, Mom, I got this acne. It's really bad, here. And he never had a problem with it in high school. I said, Jared, are you smoking? You're busted. But as soon as he quit, he was just, having a cigar with the boys now and then. But it showed on his face. So, once he stopped that, it just cleared up. I'm like, I didn't need to fix anything. You just needed to stop putting the toxins in. Your nose and your upper lip are related to your heart. So lines across here, any red bumps, redness of the nose or the upper lip, growths, anything like that. Scars that don't heal, don't repair, that's related to a weakness in the heart area. These nose creases, this smile lines, that's related to your your colon.
Seriously, we're getting old.
Your colon. Here is, this can be related to hemorrhoids. If you got a little deep crease right here at the corner.
Finally.
And then also the sides of the nose, like right here, is endocrine. There's like a little triangle area between the corner of the eye and before you get to the nose. So
What does it look? What are we looking for?
You might see a darkness or growths redness in particular. And these things can come and go depending on, like, you said, well, we're getting older. Those wrinkles don't have to be permanent in terms of you can fix the inside. Wrinkles, puffiness, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it can be repaired. Next is your fingernails. These little curved things at the base of your fingernail, they're called your moons or your lunulae. You want to have them on all your fingernails except your pinky. So you should not have one on your pinky. If you've got nail polish and you can't see them, then you'll have to check later. But if you have them on your pinky, if you have them on all your fingernails, it's a heat in the body, and it's related to a propensity toward heart issues, heart disease of some kind. If you only have them on your thumbs and not your other fingers, then you would tend toward poor circulation and more toward cancer. So those are things that you can improve with your diet, your lifestyle. You want to be seeing them on, like I said, thumb and the other 3 fingers, not your pinkies. I wanted to show 3 first aid holds. These were something I learned at naturopathy school. Because our bodies are electrical, these are ways that you can stop seizures, a heart attack, and bleeding. So the first one, and I'll do this to help you kind of remember. Hold up your right hand and say stop.
Stop.
All right, so this is what you're going to put on the body, and it can go anywhere. And then you're going to put your other hand on top at a 90-degree angle, and this will stop bleeding anywhere in the body. A wound, I mean, they always tell you to put pressure on a wound. Now you can do a tourniquet or whatever else, but I've seen this done by a nurse in a surgical procedure. They were removing a tumor from this guy's head here. And if they can slow down or stop the bleeding in the surgical realm, then there's not as much scarring. So the nurse was actually doing this on the person's body, and you could see the bleeding stop during the surgery before they stitched him up and everything, and they were able to slow that down and stop it before they stitched, and so the scarring was very, very minimal.
So you put your hands anywhere on your body?
Yes.
Where? Not necessarily where it's bleeding.
No.
Correct.
What?
Anywhere on the body.
Huh.
Because it's an electrical signal that's happening through the body. So
Does it
yes.
require skin contact?
I don't think so. Probably best if it does, but
Yeah, because your clothing could be an insulator.
your clothing, yeah, but it
Can be an insulator.
It can be, but it's not entirely. And you can go out in your stocking feet and get grounded. The second one is you're going to start with that right hand again. And can I have a kind of a person I can demonstrate on? Oh, good, Stacy. All right, just stand here and face the people. All right, so this is for heart attack. I'm going to move over here. You're going to put your hand, that right hand, on the back, right behind their heart. And your other hand, hold the pinky. And this is creating a circuit in the body that will stop a heart attack. Maybe not in 30 seconds, but in a matter of a short period. Thank you.
That makes
So you just hold the pinky. So does it have to, like if they were laying down?
You can do it laying down,
Okay.
sure. One of my classmates actually saved her husband's life with that. And she had her hand there. She's driving him to the hospital, right? So she didn't have the other hand free to hold his pinky. She put his pinky in her mouth, which still created the circuit. And when she got into the hospital, he was stable. They said, you did have a heart attack and you saved your husband's life.
So it's the left pinky? The left pinky?
Left pinky, because that's where your heart's on the left side.
Right, okay.
And then the third one is to stop seizures. And you can do this by, let's say you're facing the person, you're going to hold their thumbs with both your hands. Or you can do big toe, because the big toe is linked to the brain as well. And that will stop a seizure.
What about on a dog?
Yeah, I don't know why not.
Okay.
Thumbs.
Hold their
Thumbs.
thumbs.
Thumbs would be
Thumbs.
tough.
Yeah, you might hold the whole paw, I'm not sure, but dogs don't have thumbs.
I wonder if that little thing down there is a thumb.
Yeah, it could be. That extra little claw. I just want to mention briefly the universalantidote.com. Some of you may know about MMS or chlorine dioxide. It's a really good water purifier. You can buy it on Amazon, parts 1 and 2, using preferably the hydrochloric acid, not the citric acid, but it's a good emergency product to have on hand. And we can talk more details about it, but if you go to the universalantidote.com, you can get education on that and find out all the different uses for it.
You can get the CLO2 also, this RD2 mix.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but I don't think that it's as effective, but I like having it on hand for water purification. Also, I've seen the hydrochloric acid work amazingly on bee stings, just the one part. So because a bee sting is alkaline, you put that acid on there, rub it in, sting's gone like that.
You know what's also good for bee stings? Potato pumice. Put it right on it.
Oh,
Instantly
nice.
stops out.
Lavender helps too.
Lavender, yeah.
Mhm.
I will talk just briefly about gut health and probiotics because we did discuss, inflammation in the gut a little bit and some symptoms and digestive issues that are related to the gut. Cultures and fermentation, they've been around since the beginning, really. I believe that these are very beneficial for healing the gut. Things like kombucha, water kefir, milk kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, sourdough. Sourdough, you're not actually getting the active live bacteria and yeast because they're cooked, they're dead. But they are actually eating some of the grain parts that are maybe a little harder for us to digest. So they're kind of pre-digesting things for us, like the gluten. But some products that I also recommend for gut healing in general is something like slippery elm, aloe vera, deglycerized licorice, and these are very soothing to the whole digestive tract from the throat on down. Deglycerized licorice, I cured my own stomach ulcer with that. Back in the 80s and early 90s, I was doing a lot of opera, musical theater. I was going to New York and auditioning and the stress. And also I had endometriosis. I was taking high doses of Motrin, like 800 milligrams, and it just tore up my stomach. So I got a stomach ulcer. Didn't realize it at the time, although it was very painful. And then the doctor said, oh, well, here, try this acid blocker. Did nothing. But within a day of using the chewable deglycerized licorice, I had pain relief, and then that was able to start the healing process. So it's so potent. Sometimes we overlook an obvious tool that Yah's provided for us. And glutamine and comfrey tea are two others that are really soothing to the gut and will help speed the healing process, because your intestine lining, the lining of your small intestine, your large intestines, it's renewing itself like every 7 days. So if we can speed that process along and help things get back to where they're supposed to be, those are some tools.
And aloe vera juice works well.
Mhm.
And also the herb marshmallow.
Yeah, marshmallow root, sure. I did mention aloe vera.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I think, everybody's been talking too about Shabbat and how that rest, it's part of our health as well. We need that downtime. And I think Yah's provided that just from maybe a non-spiritual level, we need that time of rest to rejuvenate. Fasting is another thing in scripture. Taking a break from eating allows our body to heal itself. especially the liver. This is really, can be very helpful for a liver. And even just intermittent fasting. You know, you eat at 6 p.m., you don't eat again till maybe 11, 12, whatever. There's different ways to do it. Taking a few days to fast. You can do water fasting. If you've never done dry fasting, I find it very powerful. I was very scared of it and skeptical at first, but when you're dry fasting, you're not taking in anything, no water, and your cells, if you, especially, you know, you have a little few extra pounds. I mean, if you're bone thin, bone rail thin, then you might not want to try this, but your body actually makes the water that you need by dry fasting. And to me, it gets a little deeper in the detox, and it's almost like you're wringing your cells out, that you don't necessarily see those benefits unless you're doing a really long water fast.
And how long would you recommend? Because the only time I've ever done a dry fast was Yom Kippur, and it was amazing too, because I've done it 4 times or 5 times, and because I only came into the walk in 2020, and it was shocking that I wasn't thirsty, and that there was still moisture in my mouth. But I've only ever done it for the one day, so I know there's some people that do Yom Kippur on more than one day.
Some people do extended dry fast. I think 48 hours is the longest I've gone. And you know, you kind of wonder when they say you can't survive without water.
They say 3 days, and then
I know people who've done dry fasts longer than that.
like how long? Just out of curiosity.
4, 5, 6 days. I'm not telling anybody to do that. I just want to be clear on that. Do your research.
Yeah.
I personally like the way I feel on the dry fast better than a water fast, because when I drink the water, sometimes it makes me hungry. And then, but if I'm dry fasting and exercising or whatever, I feel like I don't think about eating as much. So that's just my personal experience. Second Baruch, fourth Ezra, there's 7-day fasts. We think of Yahusha did the 40-day fast. Esther did 3 days. We have lots of fasting testimonies in scripture. Let's see. There are certain ways to break a fast too. I mean, you can really not do good things for yourself if you do a extended fast, either water or dry fast, and then you go and have a hamburger. Woo! I've heard people like get bowel blockages and stuff like that. So you have to start slow. Start with maybe some bone broth, maybe some fruit. It's easily digested. So take care when you do that. It can help. Fast can help with blood sugar. It can help clean the liver. If I see non-alcoholic fatty liver in people, just taking a break from food can really, give your liver time to repair itself. Brain health, I know when I'm fasting, I have a lot more clarity than certain foods tend to, you can't think straight. There's also, I mentioned the dry fasting, but fruit fasting, some people do juice fasting. So there's different types. Sometimes you want to do it to get into ketosis, which burns fat. There's a lot of different reasons for that. Obviously, we have scriptural. I don't know, would you consider that a command to fast? I've heard mixed feelings on fasting during Yom Kippur, though. So anyway, but we definitely have certain examples of fasting and praying together. Dietary laws, we talked a little bit about that already, avoiding the shellfish. Also look at some supplements like the chondroitin, some things that are made from shellfish shells, if you will. So you obviously want to avoid that. Gelatin, marshmallows, things like that. And then having love toward Yah and service toward others. These are things that are healing to our body as well. When we say thank you, when we give and serve others, it's beneficial to us as well. And I think Yah made it that way. We are blessed, obviously, when we bless others. And exercise is the last thing I wanted to talk about. And that is, Some people don't like to exercise. I can't say it's necessarily my favorite thing to do, but as I started getting back into walking again, I realized that I had more time to think and pray and listen to scripture when I'm walking. And then I had more energy the rest of the day. The way that works is your muscles actually are batteries, and by moving them, even just walking, and you don't have to speed walk, it can be just a slow casual walk, you're recharging the ATP in your mitochondria. You're getting more energy for the day. It seems kind of backwards, like it's not a zero-sum game, like you used up that energy, you don't have any left. Now you have more energy because you actually, and so that's why I like to exercise first thing in the morning, because then you're set up for the day, and
your muscles have memory too.
And your muscles have memory, right?
No, I can witness that. There'll be times where I'm like dead exhausted and it's a gym day and I'm like coming up with every excuse to not go. But I know if I get in the gym, even after I've worked out, I feel completely rejuvenated and more energized than before I got there.
That's right. Yeah, there's a science behind that, and it's kind of cool.
That's so cute.
I'm finished for now. If you all have specific questions.
Do you want me to switch?
Yeah, do you mind? And
Okay.
then we can there's one little thing I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
What about,
Take a little break, so I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2-minute break. Okay.
What about turmeric and bromelain? Bromelain.
Turmeric was the first thing I mentioned.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
That's
had a
okay.
family emergency. So
Yeah, you were out, I think.
Yeah.
Real quick, for those watching, we're gonna take a 3-minute break and we'll be back, not on YouTube or Facebook, we'll be on our website or Rumble. I'll put the links in there. We're gonna get into some things and questions they might not like. So if you'd like to join us, it'll just be a 3-minute break, very short, and I'll post the links to where we'll be, in the chat right now.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm not sure what that one is. My HP. Is it a?
Nothing, very quiet over here.
There's a nature.
We're asleep in
Oh,
chairs, and these chairs, man, they're taking their,
what is saying on the
He's like yelling and hollering, I could do something like this. The excitement on how.
They do have a.
Doing the rotation, Rebecca?
If it's something I should switch to. Because
I was on thyroid hormone for 10 years. Yeah, I was able to get off.
well, yeah, well, I don't want to hear it.
So I heard a lot of people left already, so I was like, really sure.
No, you should have, you
I
need to do
see all
it.
these pictures on Facebook, and I'm
Tuesday.
so like, 2024 with everybody in, and I'm like, I didn't even know you
You know, I take progesterone, but it's a compound pharmacy thing, and it's crazy. And it's
How you guys doing? I know.
Progesterone.